Welcome to IT Group Therapy. I'm Chris Tickner from KeyInfo, a part of Converge Technology family. Also here with Robert Pryor and Phana Seng, also from KeyInfo, and Ken Jeras from NetApp. Today we're not going to talk to you about Moore's Law or show some slides about some companies that disrupted industries 4 years ago, which is a decade in tech years. We're going to focus on hybrid IT and the post-inflection world of multi-cloud environments and the speed to execution those architectures provide. We're also going to talk about the service solutions that are available that take those architectures from conceptual to reality. At KeyInfo Converge, we are pushing the envelope as a change agent, introducing hybrid IT solutions such as identity-based enterprise blockchain, resiliency services, multi-cloud, cognitive, and cybersecurity to our North American clients, creating the differentiated space that customers need in ultra-competitive markets. Our partner NetApp is clued into the challenges that exist today. They have a product called FlexPod that is taking new angles into hybrid IT and the hybrid cloud environments. Ken, there seems to be a lot of hype on cloud technologies. Is cloud overhyped?
I don't think it's overhyped. I think it's a matter of customers are trying to determine what strategy best works for them. What we've been seeing with a lot of our customers is trying to come up with a strategy that makes sense. A lot of that is focused on cloud first, but oftentimes cloud doesn't always fit within what they're currently doing today, and there's some transformation that may have to take place there. But at the same time, it has a key component into infrastructure and into IT today. If you look at a lot of our customers, they're already using cloud in some form or another. If you look at HR systems, oftentimes that payroll system is no longer running on-prem like it did many years ago. It's now a service running off someplace, off-site somewhere. So with that, what really focuses on is a means to leverage cloud as another part of our toolkit compared to what we had decades ago when we were just building everything on-prem and leveraging infrastructure within our own data centers.
Sounds like a lot of data, a lot of security, and a lot of risk that's there. Robert, where do you see the most risks today?
You mentioned it already. I mean, security is definitely the 100-pound gorilla in that arena. You know, clients are having to make sure that they have robust firewalls, ways to manage their data, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. It even goes a step further. You know, we try to make sure we educate clients to ensure that they're keeping their firmware levels up to date, their operating systems up to date. You know, every week you hear about the latest vulnerability that could put your company at risk, whether it be malware, a virus, ransomware. You know, all those things are out there. Another big component we see is around disaster recovery, business continuance. Many of our clients are still using things like tape backup. You know, they maybe have a DR strategy in place, but it's not something that they test on any sort of regular cadence. You know, we'd recommend doing something more robust, some sort of disaster recovery as a service, maybe do something with storage replication with NetApp. The last thing is just standardization as a whole. Many of our clients are still building their own pieces and parts, putting together their infrastructure rather than starting with a solid design. This is where we see a real advantage using a Cisco validated design, something like FlexPod that builds on both NetApp and Cisco and ensures that you start with a solid foundation as you roll out your infrastructure.
Sounds like a lot of requirements are being dictated by industry. Can security requirements inhibit or a move to the cloud?
Not necessarily inhibit. They have to be taken into account. There are customers that I've worked with where, for example, one state government customer has a state regulation that stipulates that the data that they're using and collecting can't reside outside of their state boundaries. So you have to take that into account when you're looking at a cloud strategy, and that's really where we move into a strategy that fits for the customer as opposed to one size fits all. We're not all wearing the same size clothes. So that doesn't work when we talk there, and it really doesn't work when we talk about a cloud strategy because it's really needs to be formulated around, and security concerns needs to take into account what the customer really needs from there. And that's really what our workshops that we work with our customers through our partners like KeyInfo to actually deliver a strategy that makes sense, also can be executed upon with success and confidence so that they do see the results of leveraging cloud inside the business. In usually in conjunction with what they're putting in their data center to make it easier to consume and extend cloud capabilities, make it easier to consume what we're putting in place. So whether I'm on-prem in private cloud or hybrid cloud, or whether it's off-prem, we take all into account when we really build that strategy with the customer.
Got it. And being from NetApp, with a cloud-first strategy, how does FlexPod fit into that strategy?
Well, FlexPod becomes really that foundation. When we're looking at automation, we're looking at trying to make it simpler to consume. If I've got different infrastructure components, that makes it more challenging to try and really automate that process. When we're looking at making it easier to consume, it's really that experience that we see customers wanting to bring on site. You go to AWS, you go to Amazon, you go to AWS or Microsoft or Google, any of those cloud providers today, they've made it easier to set up infrastructure. I fill in a form, give them a credit card number, and I have infrastructure in minutes, as opposed to months that we see IT traditionally taking place with their on-prem. That experience has put pressure upon IT to change and transform. And what we really see is FlexPod becoming a foundation for that automation transformation that customers are trying to achieve to bring that cloud-like experience on-prem. So they know they have a guaranteed experience, they have a known quantity and infrastructure, leveraging the architectures that we built with our technology partner with Cisco, and giving customers experience to stand that infrastructure up faster and with confidence that they'll be able to put workloads on there and make it easier to consume.
Now, I've heard with NetApp, there's a lot of tools that are available to make that transition seamless. And I've heard a lot about Converged Systems Advisor. Phana, how does that help out with FlexPod deployments?
Yeah, great question, Chris. So NetApp Converged Systems Advisor, or CSA, is actually just a lifecycle cloud-based management software for FlexPod that helps it during initial deployment, into production, and into the entire FlexPod lifecycle. So for example, after I deploy a FlexPod solution, how do I, as the engineer, or more importantly, the client, get assurance that the FlexPod deployment has been deployed per best practices? That's where CSA comes in. I'll go ahead and install and configure CSA to monitor, report, and assess the FlexPod deployment. CSA will be able to take over 400 recommended best practices and then crunch that and then spit out a report on a dashboard for me to see if there are any misconfigurations in the FlexPod infrastructure. Maybe a missed cable, maybe a missed setting in the switch. The MTU size should be set to 9,000, or a fat finger something. Essentially, I'll be able to take a look at any of those issues that comes up from CSA, from that assessment, resolve all those issues, and then run the report again and show to the customer that, listen, the FlexPod infrastructure has been validated. It's deployed per best practices. So that's during the initial deployment phase. So the customer will go ahead and get the warms and fuzzy, and you as an engineer know that you've done your job correctly. In addition to that, from the deployment phase, I could use CSA to generate what's known as built documents as well that I could leave behind with the client. So that's important because sometimes documentation as part of the project could either be missed because it takes too long, or just use CSA to go ahead and automate those documents for you. So now let's fast forward a year, 2 years. The FlexPod has been successfully deployed. The customer loves it. They've been using the environment. But as you know, 2 years down the road, there'll be instances where you have to upgrade the FlexPod infrastructure. So how does the client go about upgrading the FlexPod infrastructure if they need to upgrade the data on tap operating system, the hypervisor OS, the switch firmware, the drivers firmware, et cetera, of the NICs and HBAs? I mean, that's a daunting task. How do you pinpoint one of those components without affecting all the additional components? Without CSA, the client or a professional services consultant would have to come in and take a look at the existing environment, pretty much inventory the environment, and see and document all of those versions that they have in the FlexPod infrastructure. With that information, they would go into NetApp's FlexPod interoperability matrix and do the manual checks themselves. So as you can imagine, I mean, that's a time-consuming process where the client would be better served using that time to work on production workloads. CSA will go ahead and automatically do those interoperability matrix checks for you. It'll give you all the best practices. If you need to upgrade data on tap, it'll go ahead and check all the other components to make sure, hey, you need to upgrade this, and what steps to upgrade those as well. So that's the powerful feature. So essentially, CSA will allow you to go ahead and report, monitor, generate assessments for you in your FlexPod infrastructure.
Sounds like a lot goes into that, and sometimes it might be a little bit above the client's skill set.
Exactly.
Robert, I mean, in professional services, when do clients usually engage professional services at Key?
So kind of like you heard Phana talking, typically it's around two things. It's usually the expertise that our engineers and architects can bring to a project, as well as our agility. So, most clients have day jobs. They're focused on getting done their task A to Z that they need to get through every day, whether it, be answering tickets, answering the phones. It makes it tough to find the time to focus on projects and deployments or assessments. So bringing in KeyInfo engineers allows them to be able to focus on their day jobs and know that these other tasks are getting done right, they're getting done on time, and they're getting done with the speed that KeyInfo can provide. With our engineers, they're laser focused. They've done this process 10, 20, maybe even 100 times before, so this isn't their first rodeo. So we're able to come in, deploy the environment, the client IT is still able to be involved, they're able to get their day jobs done, while we're able to lay a solid foundation for the future infrastructure.
Sounds fantastic. And it sounds also that cloud can be perceived as this daunting thing that is very complex. How can I build a cloud strategy when I'm just trying to struggle with the day-to-day, Ken?
And that's where a lot of our customers have asked that same question themselves. It's really they hear a lot of that buzz terms. They'll speak the verbiage, cloud first. We're doing cloud first, but yet they don't have a strategy in place behind that. And the first step is to recognize that you can ask for help. We offer free assessment with our partners, such as KeyInfo, to actually go out and do a cloud strategy workshop with our customers to build that strategy that they can then take and act upon. So it eliminates the guesswork, puts focus around what specific can be applied to the business, and makes best use of the resources that the cloud can provide. In some cases, that's maybe minimal. Other cases, we see other customers where they move entire workloads to the cloud. But at the same time, there are some workloads and data that may reside on-prem still, or based upon regulations, because that has to get taken into account as well. We put the data close to the cloud, but we start to leverage the cloud to consume the data in a more secure manner, so that the security requirements that you may find as part of that assessment ends up with being worked into that plan, so that you're not all of a sudden at breach or all of a sudden at risk to leverage that. So it mitigates the risk, gives you a plan to act upon, and confidently deploy cloud technologies in an efficient manner that gets the customer to that end goal of what they want to achieve.
Awesome, and thanks, guys. I appreciate that. It sounds like we're just on the tip of the iceberg of telling this tale, and I'm sure customers are going to spend a lot more time kicking the tires and trying to figure out how this fits into their environments. Let's take a couple questions from the WebEx real quick, and
sure,
before we move on. So we have Vince from Henderson, and I think this one's probably for you, Robert. What does KeyInfo offer in the way of services?
So KeyInfo's been around for 20 plus years, and really our heritage is around the infrastructure and the data center. As time has moved on, we've also begun to focus on the hybrid cloud world. So our team of engineers can come in and do everything from discovery to analysis to design, implementation, all the way through to support. And all along the way, we provide the project management, the oversight to ensure projects stay on time, stay within budget, and deliver the expected results the clients are looking for. The best thing with Key is, we have a team of people, and that team is able to provide a collective group of expertise that gives all of our clients the confidence that they need. We know we're deploying with best practices, we partner well with all of our vendors like NetApp, and we ensure that as we move forward, the client is getting, ensure that they get an optimal return on their investment, whether it be the hardware that they purchased, whether it be the software we're implementing or just services that we're providing. So most importantly, we do everything from storage to network to compute, but we do it not only on-premise, but we also do it in the cloud. And like most clients are finding out, the reality is you end up somewhere in that hybrid world in between.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, Phana, I think we got a question here from Jen from Grand Rapids. You know, specific to FlexPod deployments, you know, what tools do you recommend since you work for the professional services group?
Right. Well, hi, Jen. That's a fantastic question. I think first and foremost, I would recommend downloading and reading what's known as the Cisco validated designs or the NetApp validated designs for FlexPod. I know Robert touched on that on the CVDs on his prior answers to that. So essentially what a CVD is, it's a joint venture between NetApp and Cisco where they've validated the architecture for you already. So currently there's over 140 plus CVDs that's out there that's been published. So think about that. Over 140 CVDs have been published. That means that whatever workloads you throw at a FlexPod, chances are it's already been tested, validated by NetApp, by Cisco already. So why go and reinvent the wheel? Go ahead and download those. Those are essentially a step-by-step run book that'll allow you to deploy the FlexPod per best practices. The second tool set that I would also recommend is NetApp Converge Systems Advisor, which we touched base on the CSA. The third one will probably be, you could also use Cisco UCSM health checks to generate reports to make sure that the Cisco UCS infrastructure has been deployed per best practices as well. I also like to use NetApp Config Advisor, which has been rolled into NetApp CSA as well. But that will allow you to check all the storage bases of that to make sure everything's been deployed per best practices. And then finally, of course, if you're a PowerShell scripter, there's a lot of PowerShells out there. You could create your own custom PowerShells to help automate all the deployments of FlexPod.
Sounds like a lot of resources that are available there, so that's
right.
fantastic. That's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank our guests. Please stick around. We'll be publishing a survey to ask how some of the things that we talked about today best fit into your environment.